All right, guys, we have a 2016 Hyundai Elantra that the customer is complaining about the transmission not shifting properly. Let's see how that goes. I'm in drive. It is not moving. Oh, there it goes. Yes, I would say it's definitely not going into gear properly. Okay guys, this is the start of transmission replacement on a 2016 Hyundai Elantra with the 1.8 liter. First thing I'm going to do is remove the engine cover, toss it to the side. Then the battery, or the air filter housing and the battery have to come out. That will just help give all the room that you need to get in there and replace what needs replaced. The air intake is all little 10 millimeters to take the tube off. I know an impact gun is really not the right choice for the job for taking hose clamps off, but it works. Back. Take the air filter out, get to all the bolts I need to get to. Really, a job like this isn't near as intimidating as you would think it would be. There's one more down in there. Because once you get all this stuff out of your way, it's pretty quick. By the way, this car has 187,000 miles on it, I believe. Pretty much just stopped going into gear unless you rev the piss out of it. I'm probably going to do this in a couple of recording sessions because I do have other cars I need to work on. This is dropped off for quite probably for almost a week. So it's really no rush. Now I'm taking the battery hold down off. That up here to the side. Got the terminals loosened up. That's a 10 mil. Batteries out of the way. 13 mil. Oh, sorry, 12 mil. 12 mil to get the battery tray out. Apparently a 12 mil and a couple 10 mils. So there's one more hiding way down in there. So I guess what I'm going to do to give me a little bit more room is remove the ECU bracket. Kind of putting the bolts in the general area where they go. That gives me enough room to get in there. Zip tie there that needs to sit. Always be careful when you're snipping things like that so you don't accidentally cut a wire. So now hopefully you can see there we go, we're down to the top of the transmission. We got the shifter cable, 12 mil. There's going to be a bunch of connectors. This is where a little flathead screwdriver really comes in handy for flipping these connectors up. There's the big one, the tranny. I'll just out of our way so you can see it a little bit better. Now instead of taking this clip and line off, I might end up just unbolting it. Yeah, I'm just going to end up unbolting that. It's only 2 bolts, so it should be a heck of a lot easier than trying to get the clips out for it. $12mm for that. Jam that up out of the way, the shifter cable. Take a peek in here. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. There's a wire connector there. I'm just gonna use a pair of legs to pop that up. Got another wire connector right down here for the range selector. And I'm going to need my little screwdriver. I'll come from the back and just gently pop that clip up. That's out of the way. I'm going to go get a drain pan. Got my trusty old drain pan. Trying to contain some of the mess, but unfortunately, everyone knows in this field you really can't. Seems like no matter how hard you try to keep from making a mess, it's gonna happen. clamps. I just use whatever to compress it. A pair of vice grips is what I have in my hand right now. So that is what I'm using. Now to get the hoses straight free, just give it a twist and a pull. And there we go, the hoses are off. Here is a round cable that'll have to come off. Sorry, I got interrupted by one of my idiot coworkers. So, a lot of times when I take the bolts out, I'll try to put them back in the same place where I took them out. Sometimes that's not possible. So most everything's on hooked up here except the motor mount and the bell housing bolts. I am going to turn you guys off for a second, get the car lifted, and start working underneath. Okay guys, next up is going to be the axle shaft removal to get the axles out of the car. The spindle nut is a 34 for the axle bolt. Sometimes they tend to get stuck in there, which that one did. Sometimes these axle shafts get stuck in here, and at work I have this cool little tool called an air chisel. Punches it right through. So now I have to take the strut bolts out, which is a 19 mil. Those are both out. If they do not want to move that easily, you thread something on like that. You don't want to hit right on the threads because it'll damage them. Punch them out like that. Hope that one break on. There we go. And I should be able to and there's the axle shaft, that line a little bit tighter than I want it to be. I'm going to pop this 110 mil out so I don't stress that ABS cable. There we go. Alright guys, now that I have the axle shaft unbolted, it's normally pretty easy to pop out. Just put a pry bar right there on that lip and give it a good yank. I said normally. And there it is. That is out. Now on the other side of the vehicle, there's not enough room for me to record, but it's pretty much exactly the same thing, except the axle shaft is a little bit shorter. Alright guys, so both axle shafts are out. Now this looks like a cooling duct for the catalytic converter. It's held on by a couple 12mm screws for bolts. Four to be exact. And now that is out of the way. In case you didn't see it, this is all it is. Directs cold air on the cat to keep it cool. Now we have this motor mount here 17 millimeter bolts right here for the torque mount on the engine. So the torque mount that holds, the bolt that holds the torque mount on is a 17. There we go. Probably seen the whole motor shift. Put that out of the way. Now that it's out of the way, I can get the cover off to get the bell housing or the torque converter bolts, which is a 14. Just a little plastic cover to keep debris from getting in there. Cover is off. If you look up in there, you can actually see one of the torque converter bolts right there. So basically what you have to do is get a screwdriver, a pry bar, anything in there you can get, turn it over so I can get that bolt. It looks like a 17. There's one of them. Once again, I'm taking a screwdriver, pry bar, or whatever. Get in there any way you can. And I hope that's showing up on camera, how I'm getting it to turn. Show a little bit more light on that so you guys can see. And here comes one of the other bolts. It's 17 millimeter. I'm putting them in my shirt pocket to keep them safe. And I'll be back after I get them all out. Okay guys, there's a total of 4 torque converter bolts. Next up, I'm going to remove the starter. I'm going to attempt to do it one-handed. You see how wobbly the motor is now with that torque mount not on there. So we got that one connector there. I'm going to leave everything else hooked up. We got a bolt there, and we got a bolt top side. So there's the starter. Here's the first bolt. It's a 14 millimeter. At least this car's not too rusted up, and everything's coming apart pretty easily on it. I'm not gonna bother unhooking all the electrical connectors from the starter, because I should be able to just swing it out of the way enough. There's one starter bolt, the other one I'm gonna have to get from up top. All right, so we're back up top. The second starter bolt is hiding. I hope you can see that. Right there. Right there. And that's the same thing. It's 14 millimeter. Basically what I used on this one was a long extension and a swivel. You can barely see it down there. There we go, long extension and a swivel. Alright, so I got the 2 starter bolts out. There is the starter. Now I should be able to reach up in there to slide it out of the tranny. So to recap what we did, we took the 4 torque converter bolts out, both axle shafts, we got the lower torque mount off, everything's on hooked up top. So now all we have to do, and we don't have a working transmission jack, so I'm gonna have to do it on the ground. I'm gonna take all these lower bell housing bolts out, put it down, hold the motor up, put a jack under the tranny, and then I'm gonna take the upper bell housing bolts and the mount off, and we should be able to slide it right out. Okay guys, it looks like we have 4. Okay guys, it looks like we have 4 bell housing bolts. This first bell housing, I just bent the bracket out of the way to make a little bit more room. Here's the second one. One right here, but we took that out when we took the torque converter cover off. Here's one. And here's the last one under here. That's all of them under here, now up to the top. Alright guys, so I got 2 floor jacks under here. I got one under the motor, one under the tranny. I have one of the motor mount bolts removed right here. I did that one by hand because there's a metal bracket that's completely covering, you can't get to it. I have both upper bell housing bolts out that were incredibly easy to get to. Like I said, the bell housing bolts are 14, the motor mounts are 17. And here comes the last one. So now the only thing holding this transmission in is the floor jack underneath. And I'm gonna get to getting it dropped out, and then we'll go from there. Thank you. All right guys, the old transmission is out. It was pretty easy, it just fell right out after I had the bolts on. And then I got the new transmission over here that I'm gonna get ready to put in. It's a junkyard tranny, so they cut everything. So I gotta take all the connectors off and take the hose clamps off and see what brackets are missing. But well, it's pretty easy to get out. It didn't take very long. So I'll show you a little bit of putting it back together. But there is 2 bell housing bolts on the very top that are super easy to get to. And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4 bell housing bolts on the bottom that are also super easy to get to. I would have to say that the whole job did not take very long at all, and it's really not that difficult. So I hope I helped some of you guys out, and if you want to like and subscribe to my channel, I'll give you some more tips. Thank you.